Are we live? I hope so. And good morning, everybody. This is Joel Fieri, and it is the chat session for Wednesday. And I want to see who's here in the comments. So far, no one here in the comments. So if you're here, say hello. If not, maybe we'll wait a little bit for the usual crowd to come in. And what I wanted to talk about today is the image of God, what it means. There's AC. What it means to be created in the image of God, and how we as Christians, knowing that, believing that, having that really as one of the foundations of our faith, how we should react to what's various things that are happening around us. I know I was listening. Carrie's here. Morning, Carrie. AC and Carrie. So I was listening, just in general, I know I was listening to Al Mohler the other day, and he was talking about how, I think it was Monday, was Trans Visibility Day. And he was making the point that they were pretty much as invisible that day as they were any other day, or that no one really even noticed. But there were some things that happened on a couple of different things. State of California, I have California's story for you. They passed a law a few months ago talking about how parents did not have the right to know if their children in school were changing their identity. And that's par for the course for California. Years ago, we passed a law that said that parents didn't have a right to know if their female child, was going to have an abortion, terminated pregnancy. So that's nothing new. Those kind of laws have been in the state of California. But I want to talk a little bit about that. And then also what came up was the guy who murdered the healthcare CEO, some Italian guy carrying on the great Italian tradition, my people's tradition of gunning people down in the street. Morning, Chloe and Lucas. Good to see you guys. So we're talking about being made in the image of God. I might as well throw up the verse right now. And it says, this is the account of Adam's family line. When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them and named them mankind when they were created. So right off the bat, as a Christian, one of the foundations of our faith as Christian men and women is that there is a distinction that God made when he created us between men and women. And it was in his image that we were created. And it's all pretty basic stuff, but it's stuff that a lot of times the basics get lost. So we take them for granted because they're hardly ever challenged. But now in our current state of moral decline, we have a challenge before us. And it's a new challenge. We've been dealing with it for a while from our perspective, but in the entire 2,000 years of Christianity, this is like 5 minutes of Christianity the last 10 years that we've been dealing with this. And what happened in California that kind of got me thinking about this, and also some of the executive orders that Trump has been giving on basically that very basic idea that the United States only recognizes male and females. There's only two genders, which is a big stand to take, and one that I didn't see coming, one that I hadn't seen coming in the last 10 or 12 years, but we're thankful for it. And one of the things that means is that this law that I mentioned that California passed, that parents don't have a right to know what their children are doing at school and in their lives. And if they're doing this, changing their identity, their gender identity, the parents don't have a right to know that. And again, that's not nothing new. parents don't have a right to know much of anything in California that their children are doing at school. But now it's going to come at a cost, because the Trump administration has said that states that engage in this kind of thing, that allow women or men to participate in women's sports. I'm thinking of the swimmer, Leah Thomas, who won all those medals, NCAA championships, because he was swimming as he identified as female, and he beat a bunch of women, Riley Gaines being one of them, who ended up being the main one that spoke out on that. So I think the state of Pennsylvania, that I think it was Pennsylvania, that he that allowed him to do this was fined something like, I think it was $175 million. Now, from the Trump administration, they were withholding federal funding, so they've lost that money. The state of California now stands to lose because of this law that they passed, withholding the right of parents to know what their children are doing at school as far as their identity, their gender identity, or their sexual identity. They could lose as much as almost $8 billion in federal funding. And that's major cash. That's going to get the attention of the states. And the reason, one of the reasons that surprised me is the other day, last week, Ben and I were talking about something, and I made the comment that when you go after the power and the money of people who are relying on the swamp, people in the swamp, people, government employees, that kind of thing, who are on the gravy train. They're on the deep state, big government gravy train, and they are passing these laws and getting all the laws and all the things that were passed that cost all of us our jobs and our businesses, all these things that they've been heretofore exempt from. And then when they start being under threat for having their jobs cut or their funding cut, they have the decision to make of whether they're going to give in and release that money and release that power. And I made the comment, it's really not about so much about the power. They want their money. They are used to having their gravy train. They're used to having their money. And ideology, a lot of these liberals in tech, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, are changing their ideology because they see the times are changing, and they're doing it for their money because they don't want to lose all the money that comes by going up against these new regulations. And I made the comment, that's what they really are grasping at. They want to keep their money. That may not be the case. I may have been wrong about that. Money may not be the big thing here. I know that Hollywood, for the longest time, I used to listen to a guy named Michael Medved on the radio, who was a film critic. And he always said this about Hollywood: it's not about the money in Hollywood. It's about the ideology. It's about, they used to make movies that lost money. R-rated movies always lose money. They make it up with the big PG or PG-13 blockbusters. But R-rated movies are not made to make money. They're made to make social statements. The most important thing to the people that make the R-rated movie is not making money. It's going to the cocktail parties up in the Hollywood Hills and being seen as cool and hip and getting the admiration of their peers. That's what the most important thing is. So everyone says, oh, Hollywood's just interested in making money. They're not. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's more important that they get their social statements out, or they get seen as being the right kind of person, or the right kind of producer, the right kind of director. And I think we'll find out if that's the case when it comes to these gender things that laws that the states are passing, and some of the blue states are hanging on to. If they get their federal funding cut off, will they still allow these things? Will the state of California let this law stand if it loses almost $8 billion? So I'll be interested to see that. Yeah, Chloe says you got to give Trump credit. He understands the power of the purse. Yeah, he understands this more than anybody maybe I've ever seen, or he knows how to take the power of the purse and use it to get what he wants. Again, he's the ultimate deal maker. Yeah, they'll change it until the Dems get in again. Yeah, and they might. I've been trying to say this on this platform for a while, and some of you have. Oh, by the way, Lauren Sabrina, glad you're here. I'm not sure if it was AC or Chloe or whatever was saying, kind of pushing back on my cautions in this time about Trump, and I've been saying that it has to be more than Trump. It has to be more than just Trump doing these things. Somebody, not one person. It can't be one person. And I think what happened in Wisconsin shows that. Just throw this as an aside because I know that happened this week too. Trump wasn't on the ballot in Wisconsin. If you don't know Wisconsin, they had a special election with their Supreme Court, and that could change the makeup of Congress as they redistrict there. And it was bad news if you're a Trump supporter and want to see this Trump revolution go forward. And there's going to be more resistance now. And also with the 4 Republican senators voting against the tariff bill, this is not going to be easy. And so in Wisconsin, Trump wasn't on the ballot, so Republicans didn't come out. And we have to come out even if Trump's not on the ballot. It can't just be all about Trump, because then when Trump is not there anymore, there's not going to be the motivation for everyone to come. So this has to go further and deeper than Trump. And never, ever, ever underestimate the Republican Party's ability to screw things up. So there's just Susan Collins and whoever the other one, Murkowski, have always been there doing this kind of thing. They've been there for years. Republican senators voting with Democrats and thwarting the conservative agenda. And now Chuck Schumer is no surprise. He didn't go along with it. And I forget who else. One other person didn't go along with it. So we'll see how the power of the purse goes here if California is willing to give up that money, because now their radical ideology, which they love so much, is coming in conflict with money and power that they love so much. So we'll see. And if they do somehow rescind this law or take back this law, I assume it'll be in the legislature, and I can't see them doing that. I can't. I think they're just going to eat the money and go with their ideology, because if they did that, the lobby, the LGBTQ whatever lobby in California is so strong that, and along with the teachers union that are going along with this, and the school system, the whole public school monster here in California is just too strong. They're not going to give up. But we'll see, because $8 billion is a lot of money. So, and going back to Hollywood here, Carrie says a good movie is a good movie. John Q. Public has no clue who's working behind the scenes. They only raise their status amongst their own. Yeah, and that's all they really care about on those kinds of things. And you can see Disney doing it with the Snow White disaster. That was a disaster that everybody saw coming 2 years ago. And they still went ahead. They've just ruined so many of these, the ones that do make money. Star Wars, Disney, Star Trek, the Avengers, all of these franchises that were the ones that made the studios so much money that they could afford to do these ugly, political and cultural statements they make with their R-rated movies that lose money. Well, now they're sabotaging those too, and they can't help it. They have to throw their ideologies in there. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of faith. People need to see the whole picture. Yeah. And California does have an image to uphold. They'll give us the money, and they can just tax it from from us. We seem to bow and knuckle under to every tax they throw at us. So that's kind of my take on the image of God. It's a challenge. The underlying issue here is the difference between male and female. And when you do that, when you try and blur that line, or you try and break that reality, it's ultimately a rebellion against God. It's a rebellion against his creation order. And it's one of the many ways we thumb our nose at God, saying, we reject your creation truth. We reject the idea that there's only male and female. And if you can get even good, I know so many Christians now that accept that and will knuckle under to that. And it's the ultimate satanic way of kind of gaslighting Christians into accepting something that should fundamentally reject. And that's when you really know you have power, is when you can get someone to agree with you when they know they shouldn't, but they will anyways. So that's what I wanted to say about the transgender issue. And it has come out in men participating in women's sports, which I said the Olympics, I think, cured that. When everyone saw the male boxer punching the female boxer and her just quitting and saying, I've never been hit that hard. And that was the thing, I think, that finally broke the thing on display to the entire world that had to happen to break this mold and to break this gaslighting lock people had on us, saying that men could compete in women's sports. And ultimately, there's no difference between male and female. When in our hearts, we are being created in the image of God, we know there's a difference. And but also another way came up. I know then this week, Pam Bondi has said that she's going to pursue the death penalty against Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot the health care executive. I forgot what his name was. United Healthcare just gunned him down in cold blood, and we saw the video. I assume most of you saw the video, but he stalked him, lied in wait, and deliberately killed, I think, his father of 2 young children or something like that. And so she decided that the federal government, I think there's a state trial first in New York, which is nearly as liberal as California. They're not going to have the death penalty there. And Lucas has got an interesting comment here, going back to the trans idea. Can you imagine being in a dating scene these days and being a person looking to make a family and ending up with trans and not knowing it? I'd like to think I would know it, but Ronto, is that Leah's real name? Original name? Yeah. So, but getting back to the death penalty, and this is something that's not nearly, I think the trans issue is not as big a divide in the Christian community as is the death penalty. And the death penalty has just as much to do with the image of God as does the transgender issue. And I have this verse here. Let's see. I've got to do a few little machinations here. My computer is very slow this morning, and I hope I'm not coming off sticky. I do a lot. I'm going to have to look into that because This is getting a little maddening here when it takes so long to get these things up. But Genesis 5 is what I said before. Oops, I'm sorry. That's not the right one. So let me do this one. Yeah. So this is the Noahic covenant. This is God's covenant with Noah after the flood. And you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood in it. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal and from each human being too. I will demand accounting for the life of another human being. Whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God, he has made mankind. So well, here we see this is one of the justifications for capital punishment. Capital punishment is for anyone who sheds human blood. And there is a distinction made in the Old Testament. I'm going through the Old Testament in a year. And so I recently went through Genesis, Exodus, the first 5 books of the Bible. And there's lots of distinctions made in there between someone who intentionally sheds human blood and someone who accidentally or inadvertently sheds human blood. They have cities of refuge for those people to escape the wrath or the vengeance of anyone related to someone who's been a relative or someone like that who was killed by someone accidentally. They can't take vengeance if someone is in a refugee city. So there's this idea of intentionality, and we split it, make that distinction, and split it between first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter. So, but for first-degree murder, it's clear that the life of the innocent person you take is that life, that person is created in the image of God. And the argument that Luigi Mangione, this guy who murdered this guy in cold blood and now is a celebrity and a hero because he's good looking, I guess, and he murdered the head of a health care corporation. And that's essentially what his lawyer said. She made the quote that the state is engaging in murder against him by wanting the death penalty, and they're doing it to protect the healthcare industry. Is essentially what she said, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard from a lawyer, I think. First of all, the state is charged in Romans 13, which I can share here. Let's see. So stop that screen, and then I will show you Romans 13 here. And we'll put this up. So now this is the one we always talk about when it comes to being subject to the government, and as conservatives, this is the one we wrestle with. Let every soul be subject to higher powers, for there's no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and that they that resist shall receive themselves damnation. For the rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Wilt thou not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is a minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is a minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. So there's the another justification there of the Christian worldview that comes from the Bible on governments being the instruments that bear the sword, and they're appointed to God to bear the sword against the evildoer. And this is, again, one of the arguments for capital punishment, and that's why it's not murder for the state to come in and do that. The state is ordained by God to avenge the blood, going back to that Noahic covenant, that God will require blood for blood if a human being is killed, because that human life is made in the image of God. So when you take that life deliberately and intentionally, that life is so valuable that you will sacrifice your own. So that, to me, negates the argument that everybody makes against capital punishment, that, oh, you're taking a valuable human life. Yes, we are, because the innocent life that was taken was so valuable that now the person that did that sacrifices their own. When you don't have capital punishment, when you don't have that punishment for the taking of innocent human life, you devalue the human life that was taken. See, everyone gets it backwards. They always focus on the life. Anti-death penalty people always focus on the life of the person, of the killer, of the murderer. But when you don't execute that person, or you don't have a vehicle to execute that person, when you don't say, if you deliberately take that person's life, you sacrifice your own, then you are devaluing the life. When you give them life imprisonment, or when you let them out on parole after 20 years, you're saying that life that person took, the innocent victim, their life is not worth even the life of the killer. You're devaluing the life of the victim. And also when it says that in the Noahic covenant, God says, I will require blood for that are created in my image. Al Mohler made this point. He said, you are basically, when you murder someone created in the image of God intentionally, then it's an offense against God. You are taking an act against God. That is his representative on earth. And you are that representative on earth. You are doing injustice as an image bearer of God. And you are killing someone who is also an image bearer of God. So it's kind of a double whammy. And so on so many levels, we have got it wrong when we say that someone shouldn't face the death penalty when they have deliberately taken another human life, because it's a statement on the value of the life that was taken. It's a statement of the value of the image of God on two levels, saying that the life of that person in the image of God, God's image is not important enough to preserve that. And me being created in the image of God is not important enough for me to not kill, me to obey the basic commandment of thou shalt not murder. And it's not now thou shalt not kill, it's thou shalt not murder. So we really need to make those distinctions, and we don't. So, but that's my take on the image of God. There's a couple things that came up this week that pertain to it. So I thought I'd throw that out there. And you guys didn't have too much to say on the death penalty, but you got interesting comments on, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Brian Thompson is the CEO. I thought we were still talking about, we're mixing other things here. Brian Thompson was the CEO. I got to get that right. That was not Leah Thomas. And so, no, I have not seen Blair White. Are you talking about back to Lucas's statement on dating a scene? I don't know. But we'll see. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. It is a good subject. It's a very important subject. And thank God that we're now in a position where these things are coming back and we need to discuss them. And thank God for this this platform. And thanks to you guys. Thank God for you guys being here every day, or every morning that I'm doing this. And I will be on with Ben tomorrow. I think we're talking about education. So don't miss that one. And we will see you then.